What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, juicy, tender, smoky, amazing smoked char siu pork belly with some grilled bok choy and a big mound of rice. Coming up. This is some pork. Pat it dry. And what I got here is a big old chunk of pork belly. Picked this up at my local grocery store. Nothing too fancy here. Good amount of meat, good amount of fat. Should be tasty. And you can use whatever cut you like for char siu. I think traditionally pork shoulder or pork neck is used, but I haven't had pork belly in a while, and I think it's gonna be extra tasty because pork belly on the smoker is always good, and it lends itself really well to a bunch of different flavor profiles, including char siu. And you could cook this thing whole. You could do a whole belly. This is a half belly, by the way. But I think today I'm gonna go ahead and go right down the middle just to make the pieces a little more manageable, let them take to that marinade a little bit better. And also pork belly can get really tender when cooked to, well, tenderness. And the longer the slice is at the end of the day, the more likely I am gonna shred it, and it's gonna be harder to get a nice thin slice. So what I'm thinking is cutting this in half so the strips are only about that big, which seems like it'll be a little bit more manageable and easier to get on and off the pit. And when cutting this, my gut tells me to cut it this way because we've got two different muscles. You know, we've got this guy right here, and I kind of want to have a little bit of both in every bite, which means I would do it this way. But looking at the grain structure, it appears to be going in this direction. So I think if I do cut it this way, we'll be cutting against the grain at the end, and I guess we'll just have two different experiences with the two different muscles. So right down the middle we go. Just like a picanha. We cut it with the grain this time, so the final slice is, in fact, against the grain. And I mean, just look at that. That is beautiful looking, and I think it's gonna be really tasty. But to turn this into char siu, we first need to make ourselves a char siu marinade and let these things soak overnight. So, ingredients for our marinade include some garlic, some ginger that I really should peel and chop really fine, but I can't be bothered. So, skin on, microplane it is. Also going in with some brown sugar, some soy sauce, some Shao cooking wine, some oyster sauce, some hoisin, sesame oil, some Chinese 5-spice, and some white pepper. And get that all mixed up. And you could cook this sauce, cook that garlic and ginger down a little bit, make sure all that sugar is dissolved. But I'm kind of after that fresh garlic and fresh ginger because we are also going to cook this down at the end to make a glaze. That way we get the best of both worlds. And on second thought, that's not very much marinade, so I think I'm going to double up. And just like that, that should be plenty of marinade. And if you know anything about char siu, you know this marinade is fully done right now. Tastes really good, nice and sweet and salty. But the last optional ingredient is, of course, some red food coloring. That's what gives the char siu its classic red color. And of course, you don't need to use this, but if you want it to look nice and red, just a few drops is really all you need. And there we go. Now we got a nice dark red sauce. Again, just for color, not for flavor. And when I was looking into char siu, there's a whole bunch of variations and recipes. You can go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want. A lot of people like fermented bean curds and other harder to find ingredients like that, but I think this is going to come out tasting just fine. So now I got our pork belly in our intended vessel here, and I'm just going to go through and dump this all over. Oops. Oh, that looks so good already. Get that on one side, flip it over. Try and get these both flat in there, meat side up, and then on with the rest. Beautiful. Looking good, and now into the fridge, covered up. Overnight we go. And I'd say at least 4 hours on this marinade, but clearly I'm going overnight, so solid 12, 15 or something like that. And if I remember, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm gonna come out here and flip those over to make sure they're marinating from all sides. One overnight marination later. Out this pork belly comes, and looking pretty good, looking very red. I did come out and flip these over a couple hours ago just for good measure, but as you can see, good glaze coverage, smells really good, and looking a lot like char siu already. But I think it's time to fire up the pit. By the way, if you haven't picked up any of our Chuds BBQ Snake Nest little fire starters, highly recommend it. We also have the Chud branded lighter, highly recommend. On next week's menu, char snake. And on the pit we go. Doing this right out of the vessel here so I don't get red marinade and food dye all over the cutting board. I'm gonna wipe it off a little bit, but I'm not really trying too hard. I'm not gonna rinse it or anything. And we're gonna go on fat cap up. And I'm gonna be rocking a pretty typical cook on these, probably around 250, 275 for the entire time. If I went any lower, it would get a lot of smoke on there, and I'm already really concerned about these coming out super dark because of all the sugar in the marinade, and it's already a deep red color. And you could go on with some extra black pepper or something like that at this stage if you want, but I'm gonna just rock it as is. And make sure not to throw this away, by the way. So again, 275 for most of this. Cook, get some good smoke flavor on there, cook it through, render some fat. We'll check back in a little bit. We're about 3 hours into this cook, and these things are looking great, not getting too dark, which is a good sign, looking nice and red, got some good fat render happening. Probing around 175 degrees. So I think it's time to make a quick little sauce to go on top. And by sauce, I mean glaze. Pot I'm using today is from my friends over at Made In. I just spiffed this up with some bartender's friend, and I gotta say, it is looking extra shiny. Love this pan. I got links down below if you wanna get some for yourself. First thing going in is all of our marinade. And we're just gonna bring that up to a simmer, basically to cook out all the raw pork juice that may be in there. Even though we're putting it on the pork while it's cooking, might as well be safe. Also, we're gonna cook that garlic a little bit, make sure everything's nice and melty, concentrate the flavors a little bit, as well as it's always nice to have a warm glaze. And once cooked away for just a couple of minutes, make sure everything is nice and bubbly, starting to reduce a little bit. I'm gonna go in with a whole bunch of honey, because I wanna have a really nice sweet glaze for the top of this stuff. Ooh, yeah. And it's already got a good amount of sugar in it, but it's also got a lot of savory notes, so this is just gonna bump up that sweetness a little bit. Ooh, yeah, a lot of honey. I'm just kind of going by taste here, but honestly, probably a 50-50 honey to marinade would be good. Oh, that tastes so good. But before we go ahead and get these glazed up, I'm gonna pop them into a good old-fashioned foil boat. That's just gonna make sure that the bottom doesn't get too crispy and everything stays nice and juicy, as well as when I start glazing these, hopefully the boat will catch some of the extra glaze, which is really sweet, and will make a mess of the smoker. Beautiful, back on the pit. And from here, I'm just gonna come out every few minutes and just get a nice glaze going on these, build up a nice shellac of flavor, while still allowing that fat cap to keep rendering down. And I think this is gonna be pretty tasty, folks. But we don't have much longer to go, because these are already up to like 180 or something like that. So just gonna help give it that nice, shiny, nice and sweet glaze on top. So probably every, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, just let it get nice and tacky. And about an hour later, these guys are looking really good. Beautiful color on there, nice and red. I don't know why I was so worried about them getting too dark, but these are probing right around 195, 200 degrees. Feeling nice and tender. So now it's time to pull them off and let them rest. And while those rest down, let's go ahead and bust out a couple side dishes, including some rice, which I got cooking in a rice cooker. Quite simply, some white rice that I rinsed thoroughly. Threw it in the old rice cooker over there, put a star anise pot in there for a little extra flavor, and a pinch of salt, and that's going to cook away for the next probably 30 minutes. But I also want to grill off some bok choy, because that just sounds tasty. So what I got here is some baby bok choy. I gave this a little rinsey poo because it was looking dirty. And I'm going to go ahead and just slice it right in half. Beautiful, looking nice and clean now, which makes me happy. Clean this end up a little bit. And now I'm gonna hit these with a little bit of salt, a little bit of freshly cracked black pepper, shout out pepper cannon, love this thing, and then some oil. Beautiful. To the grill. And we're just gonna quite simply grill these off for a little bit, trying not to scorch them too bad, but just get some nice grill color, nice smoky flavor on there. Probably not gonna take too long, but a little charred green sounds like it'll pair nicely with that heavy meat. Looking good. Smelling really good too, actually. Just trying to char them up a little bit, get a little color on this side, then we'll pull them off. And now that our nicely grilled off charred bok choy is off the pit, we're gonna go ahead and hit it with some of this stuff. This is Fly by Jing's Chili Crisp Vinaigrette. This stuff is really good. A lot of good flavors in there, but it's also a vinaigrette, so it's got some nice brightness to it. And it's really good on grilled vegetables. Highly recommend it. So we're just gonna paint this on, add some extra flavor. Make sure it gets in between all those leaves. And at long last, this has cooled down, and let's go ahead and see how it looks. Right off the bat, I can tell that foil boat definitely caught a lot of liquid. Ooh, that is tender. Underside looks good. Nice and floppy. Let's get a few slices, shall we? Oh yeah, that's real tender. Looking good. Beautiful render on that, nice and tender. Loving the color, smells incredible. Oh, I can barely pick it up. Grabbed it by the fat, ripped it. But yeah, I'd say that is nice and floppy, nice and tender. Get a few more, shall we? Beautiful stuff, nice and juicy. I mean, just look how tender that is. Wants to fall apart, which makes me glad that I did these smaller pieces. Nice and sticky too. Starting to get excited. Man, I'm very happy with how that's looking. All right, let's plate up. And there it is, folks, in all its glory. Some beautiful, glistening, fatty slices of some char siu pork belly, a beautiful mound of white rice, and of course, our lovely grilled off bok choy. I'll tell you one thing, I'm ready to dive on in. This one's got me excited, y'all. It's been smelling so good for so long, and this is just a perfectly tender piece of pork belly. Just oops. And yeah, I'm ready for it. Dude, that is just phenomenal. So tender, but still holds up. Beautiful sweetness on it, nice and smoky, but nothing's too overpowering, and I can just wave this at you all day, and then how sticky. That is phenomenal. Very rich, nice and fatty, but the fat's rendered perfectly. Got a lovely little smoke ring on there. I mean, what's not to like about this red barbecue beauty? I mean, look at that, nice and juicy. The foil boat on pork belly is something I'm definitely gonna be doing more often because it can be really easy to get shreddy on the bottom because that's a big slab of meat instead of fat. Foil boat, can't go wrong, and God, the smells of it. Honestly, I was a little concerned all day because there's so much hoisin and oyster sauce and soy sauce, and there's just a lot of salt going on. And then on top of that, we added a bunch of sugar. But really, it came out perfectly seasoned. It's not too sweet, but it's got a nice porky sweetness to it. Not too salt. It's actually perfectly salted, which is just awesome. I mean, that's good just by itself. Slice this up, chill it down, fry it up in the morning. Yes, please. Grilled bok choy. Let's take a look-see here. To be honest with you, I've never cooked bok choy before, but whoa. Ooh, that is good. Oh, it's got a spice from that sauce, but yeah, that's definitely a new contender for summer grilling. Yep, that's really good. I'll tell you one thing though, one of the major downsides of making a really sweet dish like this is the flies. They're just all over it. But here's the move. We're gonna take a bok choy leaf, put down a little bit of rice, lay down some pork belly, and top that with some scallions, and wrap the whole thing up into a perfect little bite. Looks like sushi. That is a really good bite of food right there. All the flavors, man, that 5 spices coming through. I've been wanting to make char siu for a while now, and I'm very happy with how this came out. Tell you one thing though, it is a lot better with rice because pork belly can be a little bit on the fatty side. Not sure if you guys knew that. Oh yeah. I forgot a fork. That's why I'm eating like an animal out here. So much flavor going on today. Love it. Brooke.
Yes.
Would you like to try some char siu pork belly?
Yes.
I made you my little sushi concoction over here. A little bit of rice, a little bit of pork belly, a little bit of greens.
This looks delicious.
The most composed thing I've eaten in weeks.
I love baby bok.
I've never had it before.
Really?
I mean, I've never cooked it before. I'm sure I've had it at some point. It's really good on the grill.
Oh my gosh. All right, make me another.
Would you like to try it by itself?
Sure.
Really? Usually you're not a pork belly on its own kind of person, which I think most people are because it can be really rich, especially without any textural contrast. It can be kind of...
Yeah, it's not that I don't like pork belly. I do. It's just you have to really be careful about how much you eat. But it also has to be rendered properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also got you a fork if you want it.
Oh!
A more elegant
You
weapon.
were hiding that from me.
A little more civilized time. Something around here is spicy and I can't figure out what it is. Probably the fly by Xing.
Yeah, I like the textural contrasts. Love the like sweetness in there, but it is balanced with some salt. I love a sweet and salty.
Working on my nigiri skills over here.
Yeah. Yeah, you made it look way prettier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Glad I wrote that recipe down.
And honestly, the bok choy really is bringing a lot of flavor.
Yeah, it's good. Bok choy, that's what I like about Texas. It's funny how, like, if I was eating this pork belly by the slice, I could maybe get 2 in, and then I'd call it. But when it's with rice and veg, I could eat
It's called balance.
far more. I'd call that one a success.
Yeah, same.
And with this very last bite of pork belly char siu, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely amazing, smoky, tender Chinese barbecue pork belly char siu. I highly recommend giving this one a try. It's a real easy cook. The flavors are outstanding, and you can do so much with this. You know, throw it in some bao buns, make a sandwich, eat it over rice like I did, and I highly recommend checking it out very soon. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!